All right. Good day, everyone. I think everybody can see me and they can hear me. That is the most important part as we get started, get folks in the room. I want to say definitely a good day to everyone. It could be good evening, depending on where you're located. And I want to thank you for tuning in. I am Grant McGaw. I'm the CEO of Five Star BDM and host of the Follow Brand podcast. And I am your anchor for today's riveting discussion brought to you by Agile Infoways. For those joining from across the globe, a very warm welcome to this crucial dialogue on technology's transformational role in traditional businesses. I'm very happy to introduce our esteemed panelists for the day, Mr. Ronald Shaw, the driving force behind Agile Infoways, and Mr. Abhinav Davi, Chief Strategy Officer at MedSys Health. Together, they represent a vast reservoir of expertise and insights in the tech industry. Today's session is the inaugural edition of a meticulously designed series by Agile Infoways. We have an interactive format, and I encourage each of you to be a part of this conversation. Ask questions, share thoughts, and let's make this a dynamic exchange of ideas. So I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Ronald Shaw.
Hello, everybody. Just a brief introduction. This is Ronak Shah. I'm the CEO of Agile Infoways, and I've been running this company since 2006. Before that, I used to work for Charles Schwab in San Francisco, did a lot of large consulting projects with Xerox Corporation, Citibank for about 9 or 10 years. And in 2006, we started this company, and we're highly involved with a lot of small to mid-sized companies and some large enterprises like Deloitte, IKEA Furniture, Budweiser Beer, doing a lot of large custom solutions development, including the AI, machine learning, and next generation technology.
Awesome. That is wonderful. Love the background. Mr. Abhinav Davi, you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon and good evening, based on where you guys are. Thanks for giving me opportunity, Grant and Ronak, to join this. My background is technology and management consulting mostly. So I started my career as everybody starts the career as a developer, moved up the chain, worked on a lot of different projects, small, large size, and then part of my company decided to convert to our organization to a product company. So we build the products. And part of that, I got really good exposure with the healthcare world, okay, and then health insurance world. So my majority of the experience or majority of the time, okay, working is on the healthcare side of it. Last job, okay, what I was working was more on a COO for a software organization running a product development, product management division. Now I mentor, consult, okay, with a lot of different small and mid-sized organizations, okay, and help them out, okay, from a growth strategy standpoint, how they can grow, okay, for their organization.
This is wonderful. We have two great viewpoints. One is someone who's run a technology organization, a software development firm for the last 17 years, and another who's worked from a consulting role in a lot of different organizations, a lot in the healthcare realm. And I feel that we'll be able to get some insights into some of the strategies around transformational change. My first question is going to be to Rona Shaw. In the light, if you've seen a lot of these transformational strategies or the attempt to actually build some kind of digital transformation platform to employ and try to get to that efficiency model and in their operations, what are you seeing in the trends in the business landscape that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, so there are several strategies that business can implement, while they're enhancing their business model. The most important is the roadmap to put this whole business into digital transformation. They have to have very clear steps and timelines and goals. The most important part for the businesses is the cloud adoption. They really need to move into the cloud infrastructure, which gives them a great scalability, flexibility. A lot of business, they're generating a lot of data. Now they need to make sure that they use this data and do the whole predictive analysis and do by using the machine learning algorithm. So they can really make sure the data is used wisely. They really need to make sure the cybersecurity measurements are taken while they're implementing all these new strategies. A lot of business may even can use the IoT devices, Internet of Things, where they can connect devices and get the real time data. This real time data can be really enhance their business processes. There is also change management required. Like, when you do the digital transformation, it requires a whole cultural shift in the company. So there are so many different areas that company can think. Even the vendor partnership, when they look for vendors, they have to make sure they really look for a right expertise and the solution partner while they're working on it. And then they can bring the great compliance and the regulations in the company. So one of the classic example of this whole digital transformation strategy I would like to give is one of the projects that we were involved is called Shades of Things. It's basically treating the diabetic patients. So if the diabetic patients in the United States, if they have a wound on any part of their body, they usually have to go to the emergencies because you can't really get the doctor's appointment right away. Now, this whole solution that we designed with the AI and machine learning algorithm, so if the wound is not in the severe condition, they can take the picture of the wound and send it to the solution that we've designed, and then we do the analysis and diagnostics of that wound and send it to the hospital, and the doctor would treat the patient directly on the video call, treating this diabetic patient's wound. And it's a very, very successful strategy of putting this whole digital transformation map together for that company.
That is interesting. I like that because a lot of the audience is in healthcare, in information technology. So the health IT lens and understanding how you can deploy software methodologies to help mitigate some of these issues are important. And that leads to the next question around risk mitigation. So Davi, if you don't mind, help us understand some of the risks, the key risk mitigation techniques that businesses should consider when they're processing an IT integration.
Sure. IT integration, digital transformation, I call it integration, and the risk mitigation is really a tightrope to walk, right? Especially in the healthcare world. But it starts with planning. You need to make sure you put together a comprehensive planning, involve all the parties who are required, for this particular project or particular integration. Part of the planning, there are different areas you need to consider. One of them is security measures, especially data security side of it. Second is the legal and compliance. As the time has gone by, more and more legal and compliance has come in place. You have to consider that. And last but not least, you have to consider the testing and quality assurance for the integration side of it. So I would say that's the first step of comprehensive planning. Part of the planning, which people forget sometimes, is a change management. Now, it's the size of the project, matters, but still, depending on the size of the organization, side of the project, change management is a key aspect, of risk mitigation. Inform them, information needs to go right, involved people needs to know what they are, one of the things Ronak just said about is vendor assessment. You need to make sure, that you have selected right vendor, and assess the vendor in the right capacity. Lots of vendors out there, they're really great, but the key question is, do they have the experience of that? Second part, I think one of the other two major parts we forget, not everything goes right, So people don't realize or don't put together part of the risk mitigation is what's my backup and recovery plan, and then execute that. Make sure it works, because sometimes you write it, but you don't execute it. So you need to make sure that you have that recovery plan done. And last but not least, I would say is the scalability. People don't realize when they do the projects, the transaction volumes, if they're successful, what's going to happen? Can we handle that? Our infrastructure is capable of or not? To do that. After all that, I think that's part of the change, part of the risk assessment, risk mitigation. But one thing you need to remember at the end is this is not a one-time, so it's not done. Like you did it and put it out there. It's really evaluating that, evolving that, during the project managing that, after the project managing, it's continuous monitoring is the key part, okay, of risk mitigation. So I think risk mitigation is a key element, okay, for any IT integration or IT project.
That is great intel, matter of fact, insight into the experience of what you're going to go through as you walk through anybody into a change into their technology stack. One thing I've been impressed with Agile Infoways is their track record. They have a very strong track record when it comes to implementing some of these very large, complex new IT integrations with software. And I know it's a type of a balancing act. I want Ronak, if you could share some light in how, when you're incorporating these new technologies and you've got to maintain what you already have. And we just heard what Abhi just said about risk mitigation. How do you maintain that balance in that?
Yeah, that's a good question, Grant. So it's very important to balance the core functionality of the business while you are implementing the new technologies. Like you really need to start with a very clear strategy which aligns with your business goals and the core competencies. The businesses really need to assess their current competencies, and they really need to find out what makes their business unique. And when we are implementing the new technologies, it is very important that these new technologies would really enhance the business and not disrupt them, because sometimes you bring a lot of great technology, but it's really disrupting the core functionality of the business. And at the same time, there has to be employee training that needs to take place, because you may have a great technology, but employees don't even have enough knowledge to even use them. Very important part, I would say, is the incremental implementation. What is incremental implementation is avoid the sudden or radical changes in your business. You implement the new technologies incrementally. Give enough time to your culture or your employees to adopt the new technologies so they can get really part of the whole game. This, as Abhi said, continuous evaluation is very, very important, because when you're bringing new technology, it's going to impact your core functionality. So you have to do the evaluations. You may want to take even customer feedback while you're implementing this new technology, along with the risk management aspect of it, and try to avoid the downtimes while you're implementing the technology. And the most important part is measuring the KPIs. When you implement the new technology, don't forget, what is your key performance indicators, how they are bringing the success to the business. So that's something that's very important. And this is one of the classic example that we just implemented in a project called Byte Ninja. Now, this whole solution that we designed for Byte Ninja, the core business model is very simple. When you go to any drive-through in America, let's say you're going into the Starbucks drive-through and you're sitting in the car and you're placing an order by sitting in your car, and somebody inside the restaurant is taking your order, right? That's the core business model. Now, when we brought this whole digital transformation into that business, we designed the whole solution to help more into the COVID time, where there was heavily problem finding the right employees, So we bring this whole digital model where you are sitting in your car, you're placing an order, but somebody inside the restaurant is not inside the restaurant, is taking order from any part, anywhere, sitting at their home and taking the order, So this whole digital transformation bringing in, and we implemented that bigger solution in Burger King, Panda Express, Dairy Queen. But for the customer, it's absolutely seamless process. They don't even know who is taking the order. And in the back end, we have to do a lot of bigger employee training, onboarding, teaching them the point of sale system of Burger King or Panda Express. But this came to a really great transition for the businesses, along with keeping the core functionality for the end customer as the same.
This is very good information. What I want to do now is take a poll. I want to take a pulse from our audience, get a better understanding of where they see traditional IT, where does it sit, where does new technology begin. If we can launch that poll for everybody, take a look at that. Now, which areas of IT integration do you feel is most important? So just select one. We'll give a few minutes here. See where we come back with some answers. Okay, I think we've got our answers. Do we have the results? So I would assume from what we've got is that data-driven decision-making and analytics seems to be very, very important as far as an end result. What you're looking to gain out of your particular project. This is important. So I want to ask Avi, can you give us an understanding when you're embracing data and you're refining your decision-making processes and you're trying to drive business growth? That is the goal of doing this project in the first place. Help us understand when you're starting out on that journey. What does that look like?
Thanks for asking that, because I always believe it's close to my heart. Data is very close to my heart, and data is as we say nowadays, data is a new gold, right? There are so many organizations, so many companies works just nothing but data. So when you start a data journey, what I've noticed is people have to think more broad before they go to this thing, smaller scale. You have to start bigger and say, okay, in my organization, what are the informed decisions, okay, people need by department? What does HR need? What does the operations need? What does the finance need? What does the technology need? So you have to look at more as a CIO, you probably look at a more broader perspective and say, what are the different areas, okay, information, make decisions they are looking for. That allows you to get into the data and say, yeah, I can separate the data, separate out. Once you go through that process, the next you have to think about is part of, like as Ronak says, KPIs. What are the KPIs for those individual departments? How the supervisors, managers, leaders look at those departments and what they're looking for that. So once you plan that out, the next step is you go to the data, okay, and you start looking at the data, and what you start finding things, and which helps you is optimizing performance. Like, okay, I see in this department there is a wastage of people, or this process is taking too long, or this. You can start figuring out where do we want to optimize our operation. The next aspect, okay, I've seen, okay, is personalized customer experience. Once you have data, okay, you want to make sure you give a very great customer experience. Um, you want to when somebody calls you want to make sure you tell them, oh, Mr. Day, how are you doing? Your preferences are this. So you know the data, you based on data, you make the personalization part of it. Other part of the thing, other two other key indicators of data, what I've noticed people forget, but they have to look at it, is what opportunity. Data defines opportunity. Once you look at the data, you start looking at, you finding things which you never had thought about it, and that's opportunity. Some products which you never sold, but it's selling on a different time frames. Some people are buying this, you have not looked at it, okay. Some patients conditions, you look at it and you find things, okay, oh, this is, so that's an opportunity where you go to do that. And last but not least, you can find the competitive advantage. Here's an example of competitive advantage. If you have a patient surveys returning your scores pretty high, you can use that as a marketing material, okay, and say, oh, I have a 98 patient customer satisfaction ratio, and that really is a competitive advantage. So I think data is a new gold. How to analyze it, how to go through, there's a process. I personally feel there's definitely some help required. You might take an external help, but I personally feel you need to start as a CIO or data journey, okay, way early, okay, before the late.
All right, now that's some great insight, because the patient experience, the customer engagement, the experience on the other side is commonly known in the software world. That's the user experience. You've got to make that crystal clear so someone will engage with your platform. So when it comes to engagement, Rono, can help us share some approaches that you're doing, because you must be doing something very well considering your track record. You've been in business 17 years in software development, in web development, in mobile development. What are you seeing? What are you hearing out there that are helping you to enhance customer engagement?
Yes, and it's very important, when it comes to the customer engagement, because that's the you really still need a personal touch with every customer. So how do you make that happen? First is the 360-degree customer profiles. You really need to use CRM tools where you know the liking of your customer. and what you can track their interactions with the company and everything like that. Another important part is implement the AI driven recommendation, artificial intelligence driven recommendations to the customers based on their behavior and the liking. Now, a lot of the e-commerce platform or a lot of other businesses uses chatbots. When the customer comes in, they speak with the chatbots, but sometimes it gets crazy. Customer gets tired. So there should be a seamless transition to the human agent from the chatbot when it's really a time. So you really need to have a smart chatbots and transition to it. And you have to have a social media engagement where you can listen to your customers by the engaging. The most important part, I would say, is the gamification of the engagement. How can you bring that to the customers? Is by introducing the rewards or points to keep the customers more engaged. They always come back to use the points or rewards, and that basically makes as a practice to come back to your solutions or system on an ongoing basis. Very, very important part is the augmented reality. Use the augmented or AR apps to allow your customers to visualize the products before even they buy it. So AR, the augmented reality, is very, very important part to keep. And the another most important part, I would say, is the predictive engagement. You should have the predictive analytics to your customer needs ahead of time. So before your customer can think, you're already giving them the content or material. And we did the exact same example for one of the real estate company in Austin. The project is called TourZaz. Now, in the COVID time, we knew how difficult it was to even find the houses in America. And we launched this solution in the Austin area where buyers who are looking for the houses, they can come to this app. They can put all of their criteria, their liking, the area they would like to see, and based on the criteria they would put in, we would give them all the recommendation of the houses in that area, along with all the statistics, the crime rate, the nearby shopping area, all those things are given into the app, and then they would get connected to the real estate agent, and the agent would be able to schedule the houses on the weekend. This app would give them the exact map where they need to go from one house to another house. They can see a 360-degree video tour of the house ahead of time before even they walk into the house. So they exactly know what they're going to look for. It's not only that. After this experience, if they like any house, they can make the contract directly into the app, and the whole closing of the house would take place on your fingertip, on your palm. So that's a very, very great solution when it comes to the customer engagement. You give them the best everything on their mobile devices, even if they don't need to go to the computers.
Man, the future is now. That's what that is. And they've been able to do, and I call it speed to market. You're enabling speed to market to happen very quickly. If someone on the buyer side, or the seller side can do those transactions much easier, much better, and get a more robust experience, you've enabled that to happen. I like that. So I want to ask Avi, when it comes to the health sector, when you're looking at the insights there of this new technology stack that's really taking place in your background in health, can you share some specific insights and how you're leveraging IT in the health world?
Sure. Healthcare is, I would say, is in a second inning or out of 9 inning in the digital transformation phase. It's lacking behind, from digital transformation, and there are reasons. There's a security, there's a HIPAA, there's a lot more reasons why it is what it is. But there are a lot of areas. The patient care has been a focus. How do we get the better patient care, and how do we get the better patient outcomes? So one of them is pretty old. I would say old is a 20-year-old EMR or EHR, which started. Now I think there's a lot more. Every doctor has a EMR systems in place, one way or other. But what I've noticed is still the connectivity between those EMR systems and EHR systems. We still struggle between doctors to doctors, okay, hospital to hospital. How do we transit data? Like I go to my primary care. He has somebody has to faxing the data, okay, to get the information. It's not like still, it's not a one repository which can be done. So that's an area which is very, very, very important area we can start. The other normal area which really got really everybody's attention was in the COVID era was telemedicine and remote patient monitoring. Our Medicare and our CMS is really promoting that, okay, from the reimbursement rate standpoint. So it's getting there, but I think still, I would say that penetration of those things is only 5% or 6% in total market space. So there's a lot more leverage you can do on those telemedicine and remote patient monitoring. The other new areas, okay, which is coming up, okay, and it's interesting, and if somebody wants to start the new projects or things like that, is around the AI. Okay, we have all this. What I've noticed is there's a company who basically takes your X-rays and looks at X-rays and finds anomalies, okay, and spits out the results before the technician has to report it or something. So it really assists the technician, and you optimize the resource utilization of technicians. So that's a new era, okay, very, very, very early stage of the game. And last but not least, okay, mobile health application. As the HIPAA, you go to the HIPAA, you go to that, but health application is the next thing. Okay, we all wear watches. So you have your steps, you have your fitness things and stuff. And I think what Ronak mentioned is gamification. I always believe that it's a gratification. Like what you do something, 10,000 steps are done. Okay, it makes you do things. Okay, and if you do that, then you can really get the better patient care as time goes by.
Yeah, you're starting to monitor real time what's happening in your health, and you can be able to see your own EHR record to a certain degree, and then be able to give that to a physician or any type, even a payer group what might want to have that. Maybe they'll lower your rates, possibly. You never really know, but I see that the landscape is changing. The question we have is that because a lot of times it takes some customization to get these apps to work together, play well in the sandbox. And the question always comes up, and I hear it a lot: do I buy off the shelf and try to work something, or should I do something that's just custom built specifically for me? So I want to ask Ronak, who's had significant experience. I'm sure he's gotten this a lot as a question from a lot of his clients. Help us understand from your lens, what are the challenges and requirements to be more effective?
It's an amazing question, Grant. So there are always pros and cons on both sides. Let's say if you buy the ready-made software, which is off-the-shelf software, then you really need to now change your business model, which fits into that software. And if you do a custom software, then your business defines the software the way you want your business to run. So if your precise need, then custom software would be great, and then your business would scale at some point of time. And if you have the custom software, you can make changes on the scalability of your business. Now, when you're doing this custom software, you may have some old systems that you're using or old softwares you're using. Then you have an ability to integrate this new custom software with your old systems very, very easily. And the security parameters are much better because you have the security in control in your custom software. Now, a lot of times you may hear that customers would say that, hey, there is a big cost when they do the custom software. Yes, it may be true. In the beginning, you may see a larger cost, but you're not stuck with the licensing cost. The licensing, if you buy the off-the-shelf software, that goes by the users or the different systems that you're using on, and you're stuck for the life because you have to pay the licensing fees forever, So that's and if you have the custom software, you have your own user interface. It's very intuitive in the user interfaces for your customers. And the data analytics is also very important because you can gather all different level of data, and then you can do all the informed decision-making about your company. And the most important, the last point in the custom software world is the robotic process automation. let's say if you're doing step 1 to 10 and there are a lot of human intervention by doing the 10 steps, you can eliminate that by doing these automated workflows, where your speed to the goal or reaching to the end of the work is much faster by doing this RPA, robotic process automation, in your own software. So, and one of the example that we did again for the healthcare industry, the project called Connected Life, we implemented in a lot of hospitals in Singapore. Right now, we are implementing into the UK government as well. It's the patient health monitoring solution that we have designed. Now it's being used right now inside the hospitals, in the ICU rooms, other rooms as well, where you manage and monitor the patient health by a lot of different devices and IoT devices we have integrated, and all of this patient health and data is displayed into the dashboard of the monitoring team. And like, it's not only up to that point. After that, once the patient leaves the hospital, we have a lot of wearable devices like Fitbit and other devices are integrated with the patient. So we even monitor the data after they leave the hospital, see how they are performing for next couple of weeks, and see if they need any aftercare facility. So it is only possible when you have your own custom software solution designed, which meets your business needs.
Wow, man, I really love that. We hear a lot in the healthcare realm that remember that the patient is actually a consumer or a customer when they're not in a room. So you want to actually have that type of engagement throughout the customer journey or the patient journey. That's so important. And when you start looking at it from a financial lens, I mean, who would not get excited about that when they understand, hey, I have an upfront cost, then I own my particular customization of software that's mine. It's a uniqueness, so it helps in your branding and that type of thing. I really like that. I want to ask Avi, when it comes to digital transformation, the journey, and I love how Rowan kind of described what he's doing. That is beautiful. And when you talk about business and you talk about healthcare, and you want to ensure a smooth journey through that entire digital transformation while dealing with compliance and data security, what are your insights around
that? That's I would call it the one toughest part of the project, right? When you do any healthcare transformation, it's really, healthcare with compliance and data security is the really, I would call it, heart of the whole project, and you need to do a very thoughtful approach on that. So what I've done a lot of this transformation, and what I've recommended is all the stakeholders, that includes their compliance officer, your data security officer, your CIO, your legal counsel, come to a table, when you decide what is this project is all about. Make sure you define clear objectives, define individual roles, make sure you take everybody's input on that, and create I call it a risk assessment. We talked about that, but risk assessment plan, and say, how we will do it. What are the areas of data we have to consider? What are the compliance pieces we have to consider? So that's the first part of it. That itself is a very important piece, because I think in this kind of area, especially data security and compliance, no communication is more communication. You can communicate as much as time you need to communicate. So I think it's very important. Second thing you want to put is data governance around data encryptions, and making sure, how the data is going to go from multi-system, how the data transformation is, data transfer is going to happen from old system to new system. All these policies, needs to be really controlled. We talked about risk assessment, third-party vendor assessment. You need to do that. You need to make sure the third party is compliant, third party is a BA signs it, they have the HIPAA compliances and everything like that. As we go to more cloud, we need to make sure your cloud is compliant. Maybe you want to do private cloud instead of public cloud. You need to think those things, how you want to do those things on that aspect of it. The other aspect is really the tool set. We need to make sure the tool sets what we use are also compliant. I mean, from sometimes you might use tools which are on the cloud, and make sure that what information you're sending out there, what information you're not sending out, that you need to control that. And I would call it last but very important piece, in a planning, is the employee training. we do the training. Every organization has the recurring training, okay, and they should continue. The large organizations are much more stricter than a small organization, but regardless of that, they should do that, and also make sure the vendor who is working on your project, their employees or their consultant or their contractors are also okay, has the training and awareness and certification for that. And as usual, I say last but not least, this is not a one-time thing. You need to continuously monitor, okay, and anything happens, we need to make sure we have incident reporting system. So if something goes wrong, we need to make sure we report it, we communicate it, we do the proper job, okay? Because whatever you plan, however you plan, things can go wrong, and we need to plan for that too. So I would say that the whole compliance and data security in healthcare IT transformation is a really thoughtful process you got to put together.
I totally believe that. I've seen a lot of organizations, they just don't put enough in the budget when it comes down to governance, when it comes to compliance and understanding the cybersecurity level. As we've seen, if it's not secure, it's going to bite you and you can lose your entire investment. And that the
100%.
the software journey is completely, it's a living organism to a certain degree, and that it takes constant change and transformation that's constantly happening. I want to take a pulse on our audience and get an idea from them. We're going to send another poll out of for far as the insights that you're getting out of this particular session. We want to make sure that we're hitting on things that you find to be important. So you've got 4 opportunities there in this next poll, and just take a look at what we've been talking about during this discussion. We want to get a better understanding of where you sit, and that's going to help us to round out our discussion. And let everybody know that we're going to follow this up with a workshop. The workshop is going to be really dependent on what you feel is most insightful. So go ahead and take some time here. Go ahead and fill that out, and then we'll see what our results are. All right. So what we've got back is that from our audience is that they're really interested in real life success stories. What is really happening? Because we've heard, I mean, how many times you hear that you start a project, you get into a project, it gets bogged down, it never gets completely completed, or then when it's finally rolled out, it's not adopted correctly. Help us understand, and both of you can chime in on this. Help us understand the success stories that you lived and gone through, and talk about not only just the success, but talk about the challenges along the way.
Sure, I'll go first. I told I worked in a healthcare or health insurance world. So anybody who knows U.S. market is Aflac, okay, is one of the largest supplemental insurance company. We were hired, okay, to put their onboarding. So in insurance world, you have agent brokers, okay, who sign up, okay, for the insurance companies, and they do have to do paperwork. So any paperwork, okay, when you have to send back and forth, okay, the paperwork requires certification, paperwork requires this. There's a lot of back and forth happens on those things. Their process used to take, okay, I would call it anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, and that's an average time. Okay, some used to take 10 weeks because they had to do background checks. They had to do the making sure they have license. So there were a lot of integrations. Okay, they used to do with the paperwork coming through. They looked at our platform, they recruited us, okay, to do the digital transformation, okay, and make this fully automated online process. Now remember, okay, Aflac is a very large organization. Remember I said the scalability? So we did that, okay, we did the POC, we did a small, okay, so we basically concluded the process from 3 weeks process to convert it to almost 2 hour. Okay, so in a 2 hour, okay, that entire process from beginning, we send an email out to the individual to do the onboarding link. Okay, they click on it, they go through the process, their background checks, okay, their license verification, everything happens in 2 hours. And at 2 hours, it comes in somebody's dashboard and say approve or deny. Okay, and it will tell you all the things. So as I said, we did the POC, we did the one region, okay, and we were successful. Remember I said scalability. So we didn't anticipate, okay, that the target was that maybe 10% of brokers or agents will convert themselves, okay, to a to the digital process. Surprisingly, which is a good news, but bad news is the scalability. Surprisingly, okay, 95% of agent broker decided to become okay, and not was planned. So there were times we had to like team had to support okay and figure it out. So that was the challenges. But I think as the software was scalable, we just needed to put some more hardware behind the scene, okay, and it was fine. But going back to that whole scalability, that you need to plan your scalability and you need to plan your plan things okay in advance to make sure that something which you not expected is going to expect and happen. How are you going to handle that? So the process was 3 weeks. Our goal was to get them in a day, but our average time was getting an onboard an agent or a broker in 2 hours, okay, from 3 weeks. So that was a really successful, okay, for Aflac.
I like that. You talked about the challenge. You brought us into the story, the journey, and how it all came out. Good problem to have. You just had to scale. Rona, what you got for
Yeah,
us?
yeah, definitely. I would like to share one of the story of one of our client. Now, this client is out of Boston, and they basically are involved in building the large stores like Walmart, Target, or 7-Eleven. So they are basically a construction company. So when they go, they basically take the measurements of the store. So this is the old time where they were using absolutely everything on Excel. So they would measure like what are the parts needed, how many shelves are needed, what are the racks needed, and they would use all Excel formulas, and then they would shoot out an email to all of their vendors to get the cost. So it was a nightmare for them because they have hundreds of vendors supplying different parts. So they have to go through all emails, dig them out, who gave what quotation, and like handwritten comparison. And by the time they come out with the estimate, they would take them about 3 to 6 weeks of time to even bring the estimate to build one store like Walmart or Target. So we went as a solution partner and we designed the fully automated solution. So no more Excels. They take the measurements and they put it into this system, and as soon as they put the requirements into the system, it auto fires to all the vendors with their requirements. And the vendors would come back with defined time of 24 to 48 hours. And then, they would have all the comparison charts on the dashboard, like which vendor has given what, and it will pick the best vendors. It will give them all solution along with the vendor that they would need to go for. And putting this whole thing together, instead of 6 weeks, now they are down to about 4 days, where they would have full
Nice.
quotation, dashboards, reports of this final solution, and get back to their customers in 4 days that this is the final cost to build Walmart or Target or something like that. So think of this whole process. It's a custom software, but a lot of automation would take place. They just need to plug in their requirements, and everything happens automatically with getting the quotation, the reports, the dashboards, the comparison charts, and then they're good to go. So it's kind of one of the great success story that even our company would be proud of, building the smarter solution, helping the journey of our client.
That is wonderful. And I hear so many in business talk about that. It's just tedious work, whether you're working with Excel spreadsheets or you're still just writing out, you're using paper. How do you automate that? So, any kind of robotic process automation is going to be great. You talked about AI, ML integration. You also talked about doing your due diligence. You've got to truly understand how to do the due diligence and get these things, think it through before it happens and understand how your business is going to operate going forward. We are going to have a workshop follow-up for this webinar discussion. I want to put a poll out because we want to know what you want to see. You've gotten some insight. I'm sure, because I got a lot of insight of understanding where you're at, and we need to understand where you're at in your journey. So when we craft an actual workshop, so we can actually get under the hood on some of these things, kind of see how things are going to go forward for you as you start contemplating a digital transformation project. So if we can launch the last poll, just kind of see where we're at. And what type of workshop would you like and what you find most valuable as a follow-up? So we've got digital transformation, the deep dive, leveraging IT for business scaling, strategic IT integration in traditional business, interactive Q&A and networking session, then actionable IT strategies workshop. Which one of these is most important for you and you would like to participate in our next workshop? And that workshop will be more interactive. And you're going to be a camera with us. We're going to actually roll up our sleeves and try to get deeper into this so we can help you. All right, let's see if we can get the results. Wow, look at that. So digital transformation and deep dive and leveraging IT for business scaling are pretty much neck and neck there with strategic IT integration. So that's going to help us understand what we want to do for our next workshop. We invite you to that workshop. Before I sign off, are there any last words from Ronak and Avi?
Yeah, definitely, Grant. It was absolutely great, informative session, I believe, for even for myself, because I learned a lot from Abhi's experience, because he brings amazing experience in the healthcare technology world. And absolutely a great webinar where everybody has participated, learned more about custom software world, but along with a lot of health tech experience that Abhi also shared.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. And Avi, you
Yeah.
like to chime in?
Yep, sure. First of all, thanks for giving me opportunity. Really looking forward, okay, to see one of these webinars, and really looking forward to help audience. Okay, if they have any concerns, questions, they can reach out, okay, to you or us, okay, in any capacity. One more time, I have a pleasure working with Agile, okay, and I know that team, okay, is really great, okay, so I do mentor them. And also I would love to get some feedback, okay, from the attendees if they have anything which they would like to know more about. Um, and definitely we can incorporate in our next webinar.
Absolutely, absolutely. I encourage the entire audience to go to agileinfoways.com to get more information about the company. They've got case studies there, use cases there to get yourself up to speed on kind of what you're looking at. And I encourage you as you come to the next workshop to bring, do some due diligence, bring some homework there, have us understand what it is that you're going through. So as we work on this together, because this type of technology in software engineering, from a mobile to web development, is the game changer that we're going through in our digital transformation journey on this planet. These are the most successful companies in the world are leveraging technologies that Ronak and Avi know very, very well. So this is a great opportunity for us. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and I look forward to engaging with you again. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Grant. Thanks. Bye-bye.